Hello everyone and welcome to Game 3 between Select and Thorzain. It's worth noting that differently from the other two games, Thorzain is now the red Terran and Select is now the blue Terran. Hopefully I don't get that mixed up, but try not to as well. This map is going to be ICcup Testbug, so named because the creator of the map is named Testbug. He was a very famous map designer from StarCraft 1. Now this map is interesting. It's a 3-player map, so this is the third spot that's currently vacant right now, and then there's 3 watchtowers that are covered by debris that are directly covering, they could directly cover the entrance of the players' bases, and you can see the little rocks here to indicate where the watchtower's sight ends. And it just goes right up into the natural, as you can see here. So like, if you have this watchtower, you're actually able to, you know, if you're Terran, especially in a Terran versus Terran, you can set up siege tanks here and really lock your opponent in. So you got to make sure not to get knocked out of position in this particular case. Now we've seen 2 other exciting games. We see both players have already taken a game off of each other, hence why it's gone to a game 3. They're very exciting games from some, you know, early attacks and some great harassment on the part of Select to just a general great push on the part of Thorzain that was able to deal a lot of damage and of course ended up winning that game. We see both players right now laying down their barracks, and now is the moment of truth as to whether or not they're going to get their gas or whether they're going to go for the fast expand. In fact, they do decide to get their gas, so they will be going for, obviously, some sort of gas build. We do see actually that Thorzain is walling off again. The reason he's doing this is because in the prior game you saw the Hellions that were able to be used to great effect as a result of him not being able to wall off, which, you know, Hellions can easily run by, go deal a lot of damage to Marines, whereas Marines, if they can hide behind the supply depots, Hellions can't really do that much damage. So Thorzain wants to make sure the Hellions, especially Blue Flame Hellions, are not able to just simply slide on into the base. You see the scouts meeting at the third base, both scouting the wrong direction, but now they're going to be both heading to the correct direction in which to be able to find their opponent's bases. Both players' builds now just completely standard, getting gas, getting another supply depot, getting a couple of Marines to make sure to be able to take out any scouts. We still Select doing the same thing that it did previously, in which he got the early reactor on the barracks, so we might be seeing the exact same build as we saw from Game 1, in which Select gets their reactor on the barracks, gets a couple of Marines from that, builds a factory, puts the reactor on the factory, gets some Hellions, and possibly either just moves out to take the watchtower, or possibly just does a really big and dangerous push. But, you know, hopefully we're going to see that Thorzain's going to be a little bit more better prepared for that now that he knows that something like that could be coming on the time. We see Thorzain putting a factory down. I expect a factory to be put down by Select pretty soon as well. It looks like he's actually going to be going for a command center first, and then he's going to be getting a factory almost certainly as soon as he gets 150 minerals after this command center goes down. So then we'll be seeing a factory coming up pretty soon. So again, the positions are going to be a little bit switched. We see Command Center coming down second. It's just almost exactly the same as Game 1. As a result, the only difference is now that the Command Center and the factory position are switched, which means that since the Command Center is a little bit later, it means you're gonna have a little bit less energy for the orbital command, which means your minerals and possibly your SCV production will just be slightly delayed. On the part of Thorzain, it's actually even more delayed because the command center is built inside of the base, and then he has to lift it and move it over to the expansion and drop it, whereas Select is being built right there, so it's already in position. He can transfer SCVs as soon as it's built, and he doesn't lose any build time as a result of having to move the command center over to the natural expansion. You see Thorzain putting a supply depot. The reason people like to spread their supply depots out, especially on maps with huge bases like that we see here, is that it gives them spotting range. As you can see from his vision, it allows him to see this area. So if Select is trying to do a drop, just like we saw in the previous games, he's going to be able to see that the drop is coming, he's going to be able to react accordingly, not when the Hellions are here when they enter vision, but when they're actually just being dropped off up here, and it gives him a lot more time to be able to react to this sort of thing and be able to respond in kind. Not a whole lot of action early on though, but it looks like Select's going to push out with these 8 Marines. These Marines are seems like they're going to be able to do a decent amount of damage. There's not too many forces here. He's getting a Hellion and 2 more Marines, and in fact, actually, that's the same number of Marines now, so assuming relatively equal controls, Thorzain's going to be able to clean this up without too much damage. These Marines probably would deal a lot more damage if the command center was on the base floor, but since it's up there, they can't even like shoot at anything without going over to the near the high ground, so my guess is there's not going to be really much of an attack going on here. Oh, we do see the Hellions, though, so in fact he is going to push forward. Just the same attack that we saw in Game 1, although it's going to be less effective this time because of the wall-in, unless we see some really great control on the part of Select. Or potentially some poor control from the part of Thorzain. Now, we did see a Banshee, and there it is. We're going to have to keep track of that Banshee. A Banshee's going to fly around and do a little harassment. You don't see any turrets going up. And in fact, the engineering bay isn't even done yet. So that Banshee's going to get to do a lot of damage. And we're going to watch this attack now. Oh, catches him while the gate is down. Spreading the Marines, though, so that they're not doing too much damage here. Meanwhile, the Banshee's moving in as well on the far side that you can see. He's able to take out the supply depot. He's got a Viking to spot. The Banshee, meanwhile, is causing damage. We're going to keep that selected so we can keep track of its tabs. Meanwhile, the Marines are going to shoot at these SCVs. The SCVs are moving on to attack. The Marines are moving forward to be able to fire. He should drop a turret. He drops a turret with the Raven. The turret has a lot of health. He's going to be able to prevent a lot of the attack. He's going to deal a lot of damage. However, most of the Marines got burned, but he's able to finally clean that up with relatively not horrible losses. And we see with the Banshee did, in fact, still not be cleaned up. There's 8 kills on this Banshee. If we go to the units lost tab, it's relatively equal. However, if we go to the income tab, we see that, actually that's equal as well. It looks like even despite all of the losses that Select has taken as a result of the Banshee, he's still able to keep the worker count relatively similar. That might be partially because the command center was just a little bit earlier on the part of Select, and also it was built on location so that you didn't lose any building time when it was lifting over to the new location. So actually, after all of that action, it seems like they're in relatively similar positions. If he spots those, he needs to... not going to be able to take those out. Those Hellions need to get away. Siege tanks are quite good against Hellions with their... Even though they only do 15 damage, they don't get the bonus damage. Hellions do exactly nothing for damage to them. Well, they do 7 damage, but because their attack time is so long, it just means they're actually absolutely going to be able to do nothing against siege tanks. And now we see a relatively fearsome push from Thorzain coming out. As long as he has siege mode... Siege mode is going to take a little while, so this push might have to be delayed just a little bit. However, there isn't much of a defense on the part of Select, so actually it looks like this push might be looks like it's going to be doing a lot of damage. Those Hellions aren't going to do a terrible amount of good against these siege tanks as long as there's proper positioning on the part of Thorzain, and the Raven's going to do a lot of help as well because the turrets have such high armor, and in fact Select's going to have to withdraw his command center and move it back. And he's going to be in a lot of trouble. This attack might just actually kill him, if not deal a crippling blow. But we see no more action on the part of these soldiers. He might be waiting for siege mode. This might be a fatal error, though. Neither person is siege mode. He can easily move forward and deal a lot of damage here. I'm not sure why he is sticking it out. I guess he wants to be safe with the siege mode, but Select's going to get siege mode first, and that's going to put him in a precarious position. I think Thorzain's making a big mistake here. He's about to take some huge hits from the siege tanks. Boom! Blasting apart the Marines. He's going to have to move back now. Now he's not going to be able to push up. Oh, that was a horrible move on the part of Thorzain. He definitely should have moved in there, and he has no excuses either, because he had scanned. He was getting too greedy by trying to wait for the siege mode, assuming that Select siege mode was going to be farther along, but in fact Select's siege mode was faster than his and was able to create enough damage that he was going to be able to push out, and now he's going to be able to land the command